Hey everyone, this is Emanuel. Welcome to episode 9 of my emotion code journey. And I appreciate you guys coming on here because I'm going to be just talking about certain topics. There hasn't been one person on YouTube yet that has actually talked about the journey to becoming an emotion code practitioner. And actually, if you were to go to healerslibrary.com and you look up what is the emotion code, but long story short, basically it's energy healing that Dr. Bradley Nelson basically has been crafting for 20 years now, virtually and also in his private practice. But basically, it's the idea that and the physics behind trapped emotions, which is what happens when people get overwhelmed with emotions and it gets stuck in their body at some point. And his thing is cutting it at the root through energy healing, through magnets, and what it's able to do is actually relieve pain and even more things as you go deeper into the emotion code, deeper into the body code. And I believe, as he believes, it's the future of medicine. There's a lot of people that practice different types of healing, but I've never heard of the idea of removing trapped emotions from the body, and it actually instantaneously assists people with pain and assists people with leaving emotional baggage behind. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're interested in this, and some of you guys are interested in becoming a practitioner. Hopefully I help you out, and I'm glad that you're blessing the world with that wherever you are. Or you're someone who is looking just to be a client and maybe you just want to get more information about the topics that I'm mentioning on this video. So whatever it is, welcome. And I'll be doing if you have Periscope, that's the best way to find me Monday through Friday. Just look up my name, Emanuel Zevallos, and 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'm actually doing a video Monday through Friday in regards to things that I learn about the emotion code. And you guys can join me on my journey, and I appreciate you guys being here. So we're going to get started today talking about, number one, donors, number two, inherited trapped emotions, and number three, Lush Fund. Okay, so I'm going to say it again: donors, number one; number two, inherited trapped emotions; and number three, Lush Fund. So number one is donors. So why am I mentioning donors in regards to the emotion code? Well, there's a section in the emotion code, in the book, The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Amazing book. If you haven't read it, I would definitely check it out. And there's a moment where it talks about what happens when you donate your organ or when someone donates to somebody else, that the actual idea and physics behind the lifestyle of the person who donated actually gets in, the person who receives it inherits the same characteristics or same habits that person had. For example, if someone was drinking a lot of alcohol and things like that, it was affecting the liver and the liver was donated. There's a tendency that the person who received the liver actually might be prone to alcoholism or be prone to drink alcohol. So I just find that very interesting, that, or someone who maybe got donated a heart, and they have a story where the person falls in love with the ex-wife of the person who donated the heart. And so it's very interesting that the organs carry, it's like it almost has a memory to it. They call actually now the heart the second brain. So every organ has a memory attached to it, which again concludes the idea of trapped emotions, where every organ actually has an emotion linked to it. So whenever you have an overwhelming amount of a negative emotion, it actually gets linked to the right organ that it's associated with. So just be careful out there. If you do receive a donation from someone, good thing to know is, what type of person is actually giving that organ to you. What type of lifestyle did they have? Very important to find that out, because you're probably going to deal with the certain characteristics of that person, their lifestyle. So that's number one. He brings that up just to kind of prove a point to the physics of things and also to think outside the box. Who would have thought that if you donated an organ that something would be passed along with it? Number two, these are things that I'm learning as I go through becoming an emotion code practitioner. I just sent my paperwork just recently. So, but the second thing is inherited trapped emotions. So let's talk about that. What is an inherited trapped emotion? Long story short, it's basically emotions that didn't stem from you. They weren't self-inflicted. They basically came from somebody else, either your mother or your father, or actually, Dr. Bradley Nelson says the most that he's ever treated somebody for, as far as inherited trapped emotions, actually was like over 80 generations back. So 80 generations back. So great, 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 great grandfather, all the way up to 80 generations plus. And that basically it got passed down from family member to family member to a person. And what's really beautiful about this subject is that I'm from the LDS faith, and so we believe that two things. One is that we actually, whatever we acquire here on this earth, we actually bring to the next life. Our spirits, our thoughts, our memory, our knowledge of spiritual things, material things actually gets transferred to the spirit world. So it actually makes sense that some of the habits or even trapped emotions or negative energy that you've required actually goes with you to the next life. So what's really beautiful about this, there's actually a cleansing process of when you actually get treated with an inherited trapped emotion. And what happens is, how do you know you have a trapped or inherited trapped emotion? Well, there's a sort of like a piece of paper that has 50 emotions on there. And through muscle testing, we find out, where exactly, what organ is holding this trapped emotion. And as we go even further, sometimes we get kind of what we call like a blurry answer, where we're using muscle testing on you, and then all of a sudden, we just keep pushing your hand down. We find out like what a trapped emotion it is. So we're doing well, but then all of a sudden it gets kind of fuzzy. Like there's basically like you're down to your last 5 emotions, and then all of a sudden the answers are inaccurate. Like you start getting all negative, like all no's or all yeses, or it's just kind of like really strange where it's not pinpointed to one emotion. That's when you can ask the question, do you have an inherited trapped emotion? And that's where it confirms yes. You're holding up your hand, and basically it's strong, which confirms that it's yes. And then you can ask who it came from and how far it goes up. And so I just find that as a very, very interesting that I actually treated some lady, and it had to do with she's had depression most of her life. And long story short, she thought it was, I think what really got her depressed was that she's like, I can't figure out in my life, I've actually never had, I didn't have a bad life. And if I did have some rough patches in my life, I got over it very quickly. So I think what actually brought her depression is that she didn't really own up to the depression. Like she didn't create it herself. It was actually inherited from her father's side. And it went a couple, I think 5 generations up. And so all of a sudden, boom, she gets this trapped emotion inside of her. And so she when you get a trapped emotion, you get easily provoked into experiencing that emotion. So for example, if I get an inherited emotion from my mother and it's anger, then I'm easily provoked to getting anger, which confirms that I have that trapped emotion. So if I were to muscle test you and all of a sudden you have like hopelessness, so it wouldn't take you too much to get to that point where you feel hopeless. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So anyway, I just found it very, very interesting that how I know one of the cases for depression has to do with, and I read this through a book, is that you feel like you're the only one going through it. But I believe, and according to Dr. Riley Nelson, that imagine if you had some sort of emotion that you have no idea where it came from. You're like, I don't know why I easily feel wishy-washy. I know there's no reason for it. Well, imagine if your father was wishy-washy and your great-great-grandfather was wishy-washy. That emotion goes to you and it doesn't serve you. And so we're able to remove that as emotion code practitioners. And the third thing is the Lush Fund. What I do in my emotion code journey is I do 2 things about my emotion code journey. Then I go to like a self-development side, because even though I'm reading books, like for example, like I'm reading Power versus Force, which is what a doctor recommended me to read, that kind of enhances your understanding of the emotion code. So I'm just kind of reading this. But I'm also reading self-development books. You don't see the library behind me, but I'm really into self-development, just taking care of myself. And one of the things I want to talk about is that even if we were to remove a trapped emotion or what we call the heart wall, to be able to acquire new love, new wealth, be able to receive love, give love, things like that, sometimes your habits continue to persist because you're so used to doing what you used to do before we remove things from you, if that makes sense. Habits basically, they die hard. They get stuck with you. It takes about 25 plus days to create a new one. So even though I'm removing these things from people as far as trapped emotions, I am still thinking about like, what's your lifestyle like? Like, what are you? are you going to do something that's going to create another trapped emotion for you in life, or are you actually going to change the way you live so that you don't come back to me? Does that make sense? So I tell people, I'm like, I don't want you to come back to me. I want you to release these trapped emotions, remove your heart wall, and I want you to maintain yourself so that you don't get overwhelmed with emotions, so you have to keep coming back. So one of the things I wanted to mention is this thing called the Lush Fund, which is basically what I learned from You Were Born Rich, this book called You Were Born Rich. It talks about having like 10% for your church or for your charity, 10%. Also, another 10% goes to what we call the Lush Fund, which is basically 10% goes to like you feeling abundant, because a lot of us don't actually pay yourself. And so if you do start acquiring, like one of the things that the heart wall does is all of a sudden it allows you to bring success to you faster. So if I were to remove your heart wall, which 80% of people have a heart wall, and you can get more information about it, just Google up heart wall. There's actually a webinar on YouTube right now. But it actually prevents you from having success. All of a sudden, if you have success, though, you could still sabotage it with your old habits. So what if you started a Lush Fund, which is what wealthy people do, and 10% goes to just treating yourself out, just taking care of yourself, getting a manicure, like getting a nice shirt or whatever. That actually helps you to feel abundant. And as you feel abundant, then you can actually, you manifest it quicker, So you could be poor, have nothing. But if you walk straight and you feel like you already have things, and you basically like have a feeling of gratitude for what you do have, even if it's super small, even if you just have an almond bar just that day, you can still feel abundant and say, I'm one almond bar with other people that are starving, and so make good with what you have, and then also that gratitude brings more things. So Lush Fund is kind of a way to say, hey, I'm grateful for my money that I receive from my paycheck, but I'm going to spend 10% on myself because I deserve to add to myself. And as you do that, you feel more abundant, then you feel more gratitude, and then it brings you more, and then there's a higher 10%, then you do it again, and then you get higher. You see, so it's an increase because you're making yourself feel abundant. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. This was my emotion code journey, episode 9. We talked about donors, we talked about inherited trapped emotions, and we also talked about Lush Fund. If you like to hear more about the emotion code practice, and you can actually subscribe below. And every Monday through Friday, I'm going to make videos. I'm learning more and more and more about the emotion code. I'm actually going into the body code very soon, and so I want to be able to share thoughts and like kind of like a daily journal of what I'm going through. So again, this is Emanuel Zevallos. You can also find me on Facebook as well. I'll leave the link below. And so what I always finish off in my YouTube video is say that the world has a false notion where I'll take care of you and then you can take care of me. But we all know that if we take care of ourselves, then we can authentically take care of others. As Abraham Lincoln once said, he said, if I had 9 hours to chop a tree, I would spend 6 hours working on myself and 3 hours chopping down the tree. So we're a lot of people are going around hitting trees with like a blunt axe. And so my thing is, if we take care of ourselves, which is go to an emotion code practitioner or become one, we're taking care of ourselves. And so as we take care of ourselves, we can authentically take care of others. And as we take care of ourselves, we can change our home. We can change our city. We could change our country and eventually change the world indirectly. So with that, this is Emanuel Zevallos. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon. I'm going to be talking about walking on air on the next episode. So hopefully you guys appreciate it. And you can message me out on Facebook too. Like I said, I'll share with you my Facebook page, and you can just message me if there's anything that I could do, or if you're looking for a free consultation. I'm willing to do that for you, whatever country you're in. I'm willing to give you a free consultation. Just inbox me, and look forward to talking to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.